Welcome back to the Mr. Gloat podcast. Today, we are taking a look at recent updates that are happening in the heavyweight division. So much other stuff are happening behind the scenes, but most importantly, what is going on as we speak. As we're recording this video, I'm already planning on doing a little bit of a surprise video of the first ever HBO boxing televised event back in 1973, which I would actually have to say would actually be something interesting to talk about. But the real story comes a lot more behind the scenes than anything else. But again, let's not get into any of that yet. As we're speaking about this, we got Tyson Fury taking on a Polish fighter. Christian Panga taking on Anthony Joshua, a knockout artist in Albania. So when you look at it from that perspective, there's so much other stuff happening that you gotta say to yourself that there's going to be an opportunity here or there, depending on who you think has what it takes to come out of retirement and just say to yourself, this is actually an interesting televised event to understand, because like I'm looking at all of this happening right between our eyes, because at the end of the day, what I'm seeing in the world of professional boxing is that there's more to it than meets the eye. And when I say that, I think we have to understand that there's going to be a lot of controversy no matter what happens. Now, the reason I talk about professional boxing is I love the controversy. I love looking up information and then realizing to myself, wait a minute, something is fishy. Now, there's so much bad things in boxing and other things bad in other sports that we hate so much. But when you read the controversy as soon as it comes in to the spotlight of all social media, you got to say to yourself, this is exciting content. Depending on how you perform it as an art. And that's the formality of it. So as of right now, this is the information we got. So on July the 22nd, just 2 days ago, as I'm recording this, and we do have a fight in Thailand with Tyson Fury and Marius Watch, which are gonna fight. The ratings for the WBC has nothing changed. Like WBC has updated their ratings for the WBC, and yeah, again, Tyson Fury is number 1, Okali's number 2, Itama's number 3, which is surprisingly enough because you do have Itama taking on Phil Pergovich, and he's number 4 in that ranking. Even Itama's number 1 in the WBA, followed by Hrgovic at number 7. And again, those two are having their fight just sometime this year. And we're having talks that Frank Sanchez, the IBF number 1 mandatory, is going to have a strong ideal to fight one of those two. Because if Itama defeats Hrgovic on August the 29th, then we might have an opportunity for him to take another good payday for a fight. Again, I really can't say much about that. More update on other stuff going on behind the scenes, other than Chris Eubank Jr.'s brother, Harlem, suffered a 12-round defeat against a Frenchman named Papat. Diego Pacheco from the super middleweight, great 11th round TKO win against Alim. But again, it was nothing much, just a cherry pick fight. And with everything going on, with these other fights going on, I really don't know what to say about it. So it's going to be really tough for me as we speak. But again, it's going to be interesting because even though with all the information going on, I really can't say much about Oh, wait a minute. The fight just happened. The Tyson Fury versus Marius Watch fight just happened already. And my prediction of Fury winning by a 9th round or a 10th round knockout was a 7th round knockout. Huh. Well, if that doesn't mean that Marius Watch is going to retire from boxing, I hope he retires for good after this fight, because he is a done man. Wow, Tyson Fury is finally building back his resume. It's kind of crazy that 8 years ago in 2018, Tyson Fury builds up a couple wins before taking on Deontay Wilder. Now he's building up a couple wins this year after taking a long hiatus in 2025. And his wins might not be that special this year, but again, it's not bad. So interesting. So the fight already happened. Yeah, to be honest, it kind of makes sense. I keep forgetting about the time differences because Thailand is in the Eastern Asian area next to South Korea, North Korea, and the China of the Philippines and Japan. So of course the time differences are in those zones for July the 24th, but it stated I must have read it wrong. So technically the fight already happened, I guess, because it says on Box Live. Let's see if there's any information that the fight did happen. Like, again, so it says that Tyson Fury makes Marius Watch quit after 7 rounds. So he quit on his stool before the 8th round. Mike Tyson makes an interview on Fury and Joshua, believing that his dream matchup with Wild Stories, which is pretty interesting to point that out. So Tyson Fury says that he will be his final year in boxing, which I doubt that, because Fury saying 2026 will be his final year in boxing, I don't buy that. Come on, you can't really, like, the updates on this is the most ridiculous thing. I really cannot say that this will be his final year. Like, yes, Tyson Fury has fought for 18 years in boxing. Like, if they don't get the payday for him to fight Joshua this year, then they might have him to fight next year in 2027, which is interesting. And by the way, even their trainers and even their managers are even asking that for the Joshua fight, that they believe that they should have the WBA super heavyweight champion on the line. Here's the problem. Well, two problems. One, Murat Gassiev is the WBA champion. He's promoted as champion now as he is. So he is a 2-time weight class champion. The problem is, the second thing is, it would be hard to make up some excuse that he should not be champion. And like I said before, if any of you people weren't following up the information, Murat Gassiev was supposed to take on Tony Yoka, who was ranked in the top 15 in the WBA. Unfortunately, he took on a former ranked fighter that was not ranked in the top 15. He was unrated by the WBA, named Peter Kadiru. The problem is, he wasn't even meant to be in the fight. He's not rated. He wasn't even rated in any of the other organizations, which is similar to Danny Garcia and Rod Salka. So if you make up some excuse that they should vacate him the belt because he took on a nobody, all of these things should happen a lot more at once to understand the reason why was this title on the line. So if they make up some wild idea, because at the end of the day, they at this moment, they should almost promote him to a world champion as WBA. But because he did not take on a top 15th ranked fighter in the WBA, then even though it wasn't his fault because Tony Yoka broke out his back, so you got to say to yourself, maybe there's an opportunity for something to come awry. So I really can't say that this was like a tough ordeal for anyone to watch this. Like, it's pretty tough to look at this and say to yourself, this is exciting content. So yeah. But with all that being said, Tyson Fury won the fight, which I'm going to have to watch footages of the fight, which I am going to talk about it in a couple of days on the 26th after I watch the Kristen Panga and Anthony Joshua fight. What I'm going to do in a couple of days from now, I'm going to review the first show in Thailand, and then review the next show in Saudi Arabia. I'm going to review one episode from that, cut it into part 1 and make part 2 to take a break on to make out 2 episodes in one. I might upload them the same day or one part against each other as I'm recording this. So I'm taking a couple more episodes this month, which is kind of ridiculous because the month of July is turning into a wild, excitingness for the world of boxing. And I enjoyed it. I enjoyed making a lot of videos, even though some did take my time because I did review the autumn weight division, which one person in the comments did not care. And I even told him, should we collaborate so we can have a talk about how to work on my content? Because if you're going to say mean stuff to me in the comments, then you're going to work with me. Still waiting for that update for him. But again, with all due to respect, I'm not going to rush someone into it. But if you're going to say, if you're going to be the only person in the comments that just comment on my video and you're just going to say that, then you better help me out. Because if you're not helping me out, then why are you in my channel telling me crap that doesn't make sense? Because you're pushing my buttons more than you pushing yourself. And that's going to cause more tragedies in the future for other people if you're not going to help out. I help out people in the public. And if you can't do it, then why are you sitting on your lazy fat butt 24/7 on your computer saying hateful things instead of helping out and being positive to the people online? While I'm actually out there filming out anything I can do to take care of garbage, take out cans, make out videos, or even go to the beach to watch women in bikinis, or even have conversations, walking out there, not even doing all of this at once, having a nice vacation while before school starts next month, instead of me staying on my computer 24/7, because mostly I've only stayed on it for only no more than 5 hours a day, sometimes a couple extra hours for 7. So if you're just gonna do that for the rest of your life, you're struggling yourself more than the person working hard on trying to take this seriously. Because I'm doing this, I'm trying to restart a different career. So you got to understand what you're coming from when you try to not help out person. And that's my advice. More updates on the other necessities of boxing. So Earl Spence Jr. is still in anticipation to put out a grueling fight against Tim Tszyu in Australia. The thing is, we do have Stephen Fulton. He's still going to be there. We don't know if there's any reports of him having visa issues because Jermell Hitman Charlo is not going to be part of the show, which kind of stinks because I really felt bad that he's not part of it. And it is what it is. But I really can't say to myself that all due intents and purposes that some stuff are going to go awry. So we're going to have to wait for something to happen. With Tim Tszyu, who's ranked number 6 in the boxing world right now, and even though some of his victories he has won aren't that special, but his other big fights he had against with guys like Sebastian Fundora, Bekram Murtazayev, and Fundora twice, again last year ago, those were utter defeats for him that he could not handle. So, and as a former WBO World Super Welterweight Championship, I can't call him a bust, but he could actually come forward as best he could. I'm not going to review the show. I'm just going to review on just the fights and the wins and happening, because at the end of the day, there's just nothing much I can say about this, because it's a pretty tough situation when you put yourself in this mess. Like, it's pretty tough. It's hard for me to explain, but we're going to have to wait for more updates when this time comes. And even though I'm only recording a 40-minute video of this episode, all I could say is we're going to have to wait and see what will happen after this is over. Is Earl Spence Jr. still have what it takes? Considering he's been out of the ring for 3 years, who knows? Does Stephen Fulton have a chance to defeat Liam Wilson in a couple of days? Like, did his 12-round utter defeat against Oshakur Foster might have destroyed him? The thing is, I can't really say for certain when we get into the fights itself. Again, like I said before, I'm already thinking of recording a 2-part episode. And maybe after that's over, we're going to get to probably just one more episode this month, probably until the end of July, which will be the final day on the 30th, or probably the 31st. Like, as this episode's being uploaded, I will have probably a couple videos for part 1 and part 2 for the heavyweight fights on Tuesday and Wednesday, and probably upload another just short video on my opinions for what's happening next month. So at this moment, I'm already out of ideas for the month of July, so we're just going to skew past this as best as we could and see what happens. Okay, so let's take a look at the pound-for-pound rankings and people's pound-for-pound. So Nadia Inoue still ranked number 1. Alexander Usyk's ranked number 2. David Benavidez is number 3. Jesse the Bam Rodriguez is number 4. Shakur Stevenson way down to number 5. Followed by Dimitri Bivol to number 6. Jaron Ennis again at 7, with Junto Nakatani falling down with Devin Haney and Saul Canelo Alvarez. So technically, we do have to say to ourselves that there might be opportunities here for anything else going on. But what I find really interesting is that when you look at the men's pound-for-pound division, and then you cross over to the female pound-for-pound division, you're looking at two opposites that could happen just like that. I did talk about this in my last episode, and I'll talk about it one more time, only this time it's going to be different. So in the female pound-for-pound, Gabrielle Fundora, who is the younger sister of Sebastian Fundora? Yeah, of Sebastian Fundora, her older brother that defeated Tim Tsuzu twice, and he is also a former unified champion as well. She's number 1. Clarissa Shields, for some reason, is number 2, and her and Amanda Serrano are battling it down and forth, back and forth to number 2 and number 3, and she's back to number 2 and Serrano 3. And of course, just recently, a few weeks ago, past July the 11th, which is 1 year after Amanda Serrano lost her third trilogy straight defeat against Katie Taylor. Katie Taylor has been taken out of the BoxRec standings because she hasn't fought for over a year. But she is going to have a fight recently, just in about a month or so, or a couple months, in her country of Ireland, which states might be her last fight. So we're going to have to wait for update and confirmation on that. So she's out of the rankings, meaning that number 4 is Mizuki Hiruta, the Japanese woman rated in the higher standard points. And this is crazy. So Chanto Cameron is at number 5. And even though her next fight is going to come against Michaela Mayer on August the 29th, so we'll see how good that super welterweight fight's going to be. And like Clarissa Shields, she's going back from heavyweight, she's going back to middleweight to fight against Kay Scott, who's the unified champion. And you viewers are probably wondering, why won't she just fight in the super middleweight? The thing is, when you defeat someone like Lonnie Daniels, and Lonnie Daniels injured Shadecia Green, and we don't have information of Shadecia Green's injuries as we speak, because we don't know, she's been out of the spotlight since exiting the ring on a stretcher during her fight with Lonnie Daniels, which is a shocking victory for everyone. And there's also another female boxer that also suffered an injury in the first round some months ago, back around March or April, against another woman that did score a knockout. And we don't know how good that woman is, if she's in an okay critical situation. So we can't find information on those two female boxers. And when you have your former rival opponent, Cruz Dezern, who you've already beaten twice, once in her debut in 2016 and last February this year, and she's still a unified middleweight champion. With Lonnie Daniels and Cruz Dezern, it's like, those are two super middleweight champions. Yeah, we're here to fight new competition, and I think Clarissa Shields knows that she has to do it, so it makes sense why. But then you look back at it and say to yourself, well, why not fight for any of the light heavyweight title belts like Sarah Skurich from the woman that defeated Lonnie Daniels the same year that you defeated her last year ago? Take on, like, Daniel Perkins already defeated the Australian woman, which was an upset for me in episode 1. So who knows? It's pretty tough. Also, speaking about pound for pound, Alicia Baumgartner just went up 1 spot to number 6, and Michaela Mayer down to number 7 in 1 spot. Lauren Price, the welterweight champion, is number 8, and with all this being said, we don't know if she has what it takes for a welterweight champion, considering she handled a good job last April against an easy victory in the Jake Paul promotion. And Caroline Dubois is taking on a New England woman on August 29th, that same night. The exact same night where Chantel Cameron is taking Michaela Mayer and Dubois taking on Amelia Moore, and Terry Harper's also fighting that same night as well. So, and again, Amelia Moore has 4 wins, 1 knockout. She's 36 years old. She was born in Connecticut, but living in Colorado. But is that helping her to establish anything? A woman with 5 knockouts in her career for Caroline, I don't know. We're going to have to wait and see what happens there. And finally, number 10 is Ellie Scottney. So, with all that being said, and we don't know about her, what she's going to do in the featherweight. So when you look at both the men and the female pound for pound, this is interesting. Naoya Inoue is number 1. Bam Rodriguez is number 4. And then you see in the female, Gabriella is number 1 and Mizuki is number 4. They are both 1 weight class above each other. Jesse wants to fight Inoue in the super bantamweight, and Robert Garcia is trying to hold him back just to give him more breathing space to fight other fights. Just maybe waiting for the age of Inoue's age to get the better of him. And Mizuki Hiruta and Gabrielle Fandora, I think they're trying to wait for Gabrielle because she's young too, just like Rodriguez. And even though Hiruta is on the domination course for the super flyweight, she's been in the domination for a few years now. And even though she's a super flyweight boxer and Gabriella is a flyweight, some of her trainers, like there was even one article I read during my last episode talking about how they believe that Gabrielle said that it's up to her team of what they think is a good idea, thinking that they should bring her down to the light flyweight to lose some weight to get your experience going and to win fights and probably go for an undisputed light flyweight champion against the Mexican fighters that are now current champions, which was last March when they made that article statement up. So we don't know the information about what they're going to do now. But again, that's the thing. So seeing these 4 boxers, 2 from each gender and 2 of them from each country, from Japan and America, that right there, put those out together and you're looking at the Night of the Samurai, America versus USA. That right there can build up a lot of money. So it is crazy. And it can build up who the real pound for pound champion is, because if Mizuki Hiruta wins, she'll be known as the pound for pound of all time. The problem is, you have to think about earning the right to fight whatever you think. And even though you have Amanda Serrano trying to get her 50th professional win in her career, 32 knockouts she scored, even though her recent knockouts she had 2 years ago and just last May weren't great fights, I will legitimately say that there is some opportunities here that might give us some leverage. because whatever is going to happen, we have to be at our best behavior to understand that these fighters are pretty good for what they are. So now we are looking at it from a different perspective. Because right now, while we're waiting for some of these updates to go on, because we don't know what Inoue's next opponent's going to be. We don't know who Jesse the Bam Rodriguez's next opponent is going to be. We don't know Gabriel Fundora or Mizuki. We don't have any updates of what their next fights are going to be. But again, I really do suspect that something will happen in the future when the time comes. And by the way, with all this being said, we also been trying to find out new updates on the heavyweight landscape. And shockingly or not, I don't know if I followed this information up, but on July the 17th, live with on box.live, the writer of Ben Hammonds just put out a statement in New York last week ago on the 17th, stating that John Jones rules out boxing Alexander Usyk as Wilder talks continue. The information here states that John Jones has ruled facing Alexander Usyk in a boxing match, pushing Deontay Wilder further into focus as the leading option for Usyk's proposed farewell fight in the USA. Now, John Jones is a former MMA champion. And even though John Jones has already had problems coming to his prime, because he knows that his prime is done for, depending on who the viewer's asking, because John Jones has already turned 37 years old because his birthday was just 5 days ago. So he's now 39 years old. Unfortunately, with all that being said, and considering after what recently went on with his entirety of his entire career, and after suffering a DQ on Matt Hamill back in 2009 due to illegal elbows, and having to dominate fights and barely having a no contest against Daniel Cormier in their rematch, nonetheless. But ever since what happened with all of this going on and everything else, and because John Jones hasn't fought since 2024 in UFC 309 against Stipe Miocic for the UFC heavyweight champion, which he defended because he won it against Cyril Gane back in 285 in March. So technically, when you're saying that you're now going up to professional boxing, the thing is, an MMA fighter and a kickboxer do have their own meanings to it. Sometimes boxers can find the leverage more and do a good job. A Muay Thai fighter, on the other hand, can do out similar damage for who you're asking. And the thing is, the Klitschko brothers, the reason why Vladimir and Vitaly were so good is that if you do watch early footages of their career, they started doing out kickboxing and doing interesting, like they were that good when it came to it. They were legit stars in the world before playing in boxing. So that right there does decreed a lot of danger going on in the sport. So it's not like all of this is on purpose. Like these people really do have a lot of dangerous fortitude when it comes to some great athletes. And I think what we have to do is we have to put all of this together by understanding the formality that if you think John Jones, a man that's earned a lot of rewards, like he has been a monstrous killer in the world of MMA. And even though his career might have had a little bit of a sort of a tough situation because just to let you viewers know, John Jones has been having problems outside of MMA. Like, for instance, like in March the 30th, um, a guy named Cristo Martinez was a drug testing agent, for a drug-free sports, where they filed a police report stating that Jones allegedly assaulted Martinez and threatened to try to kill her during a recent visit in his home, where was tasked with collecting urine samples and part of an anti-doping program for UFC. With all this going on, with all misdemeanor charges and everything else going on, Jones agreed to attend 4 hours of anger management classes to resolve charges on October the 29th, 2024. And even though they did respond a month ago, responded to the innocent could not attend an original date. And even though Jones pleaded not guilty with it in both of the charges, it just didn't get better, because on June the 17th, 2025, a criminal summons was filed in Bernalillo County in New Mexico, accusing Jones of a misdemeanor charge for alleging fleeing the scene of a traffic accident that occurred on February the 24th. In Albuquerque, police responded to a crash involving a woman in a passenger seat who was insignificantly intoxicated and lacking clothing from the waist down, and stated that Jones had been driving and fled on foot, and the woman called Jones afterward, during which police allege he appeared heavily intoxicated, refusing to confirm his identity, and made statements implying his capacity to employ lethal force through third parties. He was scheduled to appear at a July the 24th bond arraignment, and his bench trial was set for September the 2nd. New Mexico prosecutors dismissed misdemeanor charges, and that's all it has to be said. So my point is this. It's kind of interesting that me and John Jones both had a lot of crazy controversies in our life. The problem is he's 39 years old and I'm 27 years old. So whether or not, and even though he's a star and I'm still a nobody, that doesn't mean that we can still change the way we are. And I hope John Jones can, I hope there'll be some people out there, and I hope John Jones will wake up one day and say to himself that I'm too old for this crap. But again, try to get your goal up, try to achieve a goal, and try to wake up and think to yourself what to do in life to change your ways in life. And I hope John Jones will make it through, because it's great that I managed to escape everything in my past 2 years for all the stuff that's been going on for the last 3 years, because we'll make that 4 years, because for the last 4 years from 2022 to 2026 have been tough enough for a lot of stuff going on. So, and probably 2023 and 2022 and 2026, these have to be the worst 4 years of my life. But that doesn't mean that you have to give up on life. You just have to push yourself forward, as long as you don't get other people in your nerve system to give you a problem. So what I'm trying to say here is that I think John Jones should just put the gloves down and just quit. Try to put yourself together, change your life, and try to see if you can do something better with yourself. Because John Jones has been involved with a lot of drug tests in his career, from UFC 182 and to UFC 200, which is pretty funny enough, because I can't wait to review UFC 200, because UFC 200 is going to be one doozy of a spectacle, and I can't wait to think about talking about it one day, because it just gets my brain boiled into stupidity if I ever think about it. And even happened to him in 217 and even in 232. So at this moment, I think John Jones should just put the gloves down and not do nothing about this and just try to get something done. As for everything going on, Deontay Wilder, with only 5 minutes left until the 40-minute mark before I end this video, because I just want this to end short and sweet. The reports on Deontay Wilder are sometimes blurs into reality here, because I really can't find information on anything about this yet for Deontay Wilder, considering Deontay Wilder is still ranked number 7 in the WBC and ranked number 9 in the IBF and 8 in the WBO and number 13 on Box Live. There's still reports about negotiations. It's only been like a couple weeks and a half since our last update, so we don't know what's going to happen. I think what's going to be interesting is that if Deontay Wilder has to take this fight, his team better do something, because we've already seen the competition going on. We've already seen the end of an era. Everything here has come to an end. So there's no point on doing none of this anymore. And not only that, as I'm recording this, we even have other stuff going on behind the scenes that some things are also happening. Like Jai Opetaia is taken out with the IBF because of his belt being stripped, because he went with Zuffa Championship Boxing. And David Benavidez, just a couple days ago, Demetrius Andrade stated that he wanted to fight Edgar Berlanga after his comeback. But they're also stating around this time is that David Benavidez, because they've already had talks about him fighting David Benavidez in 2023. So with that being said, there's a lot of talent in boxing here, but again, there's just not a lot of resume to be involved here, because MMA, bare knuckle boxing, kickboxing, and wrestling are more in their own space of their own promoters and own championships. So I look at this and I say to myself, we have to secure a huge deal on any of this happening, because whatever's going to happen, we have to go forward, have a talk, and try to figure out what we have to do, because when this is over, we're going to come straight into the background, see if any of this can go awry, because there's so much potential fights here, because there's just too much controversy going on here. Like, nothing is perfect in the world of boxing here, because the only information I can point out before ending this episode is just this one simple thing. Where are we going to go? Where are we going to lead our way right into the potentiality of understanding if any of these fights aren't going to be made? Because I'm still trying to wait for interesting confirmation of other fights going on. And the only thing I'm a little bit more entertained about, that I'm more considered and more important watching in professional boxing right now in the month of August, is waiting for Jake Paul to put out some more promoted fights, which will happen in a couple weeks, because he's already had another fight in Caribbean Royal Orlando on August the 8th. And a couple more other shows on the 21st in California, and one in the UK on the 29th, which I just talked about those fights. So we're going to have to understand what's going on here. And even though I am going to try to upload a little bit, just a tiny bit less of episodes on August, because at the end of the day, I'm just going to have to step back and see what we're going to have to do. But for now, we're going to have to wait for that until it comes. But I think my final advice is, whatever's going to happen, it has to happen sooner than later, because if Deontay Wilder and Alexander Usyk fight does not happen, there's just no point. And if Tyson Fury says he's going to quit this year, then what's the point of not having a 3 weight class champion or even a 3-time heavyweight championship bout? All I can say is we're going to have to wait until that time comes. But for now, I already have to review the fight for the Tyson Fury and Marius Watch, which I did not know happened. I guess I overslept because it happened in Asia. So I'm going to review the fights and the highlights, if there is highlight footages of the fight. And then tomorrow I'm going to review the other fights for Anthony Joshua and Kristen Panga. But until then, we'll see you guys next time in the next episodes for this Mr. Gloat podcast. So with that being said, see you next time.